better, happier, more productive, comfortable.
I'm happy, I'm feeling glad, I got sunshine in a bag.
Hello. Hello again to all my friends. Hello again to all my friends.
You can't do that.
You are now tuned in to Be The Message. Don't just talk about it, be about it. On 1630 AM, Chaffey College Radio. You can also check us out on chaffey.edu/broadcast and click on the link, Be The Message with Lou the Messenger.
What's up, everybody? We have a great show today. You know, there's a lot of questions people have about faith, different faiths, and overall religious belief for that matter. Today we'll be hearing 3 different perspectives from 3 different guests. So stay tuned. But first, here's weather and traffic.
I ain't love you first, but you first love me. Come on. In my heart I cursed you, but you set me free. I gave you no reason to give me new things.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to Be The Message on 1630 AM, Chaffey College Radio. And I'm your host, Lou the Messenger. Let's get into some traffic.
You are now tuned in to Be The Message. Don't just talk about it, be about it. On 1630 AM, Chaffey College Radio. You can also check us out on chaffey.edu/broadcast and click on the link, Be The Message with Lou the Messenger.
I know last time you were in here, Ayla, we asked some questions. There was Pastor Dan was here, and we asked some, I feel that they were like commonly asked or common questions that a lot of people had about, different religions and things of that nature. And we had some questions that we didn't get into. A lot of people, you hear this a lot of people that are either atheists or they're unsure about the topic of God, I know us, we believe in a monotheistic God, both Islam and Christianity. But like I said, there are a lot of questions out there about, how, if there is a God, how could he allow so much evil and suffering in the world? I think a lot of people have that question, and that's the basis of a lot of their beliefs is, hey, if there's a God, why is there so much misery and suffering and, things of that nature? So I want to ask that question to you guys. We'll start off with, Christian, how do you feel? What do you think about that question? What's your response to that?
Yeah, you know what? That is a very common question that me as a believer get very, very recurring. Everybody wants to know, if there is a God, why would he have so much evil and injustice in the world? And that's even a question that strikes my mind sometimes. And pretty much in my own way of thinking, people are so quick to blame God for the injustices that go on in the world. But as humans, we're not so quick to blame ourselves, because think about it. If God wanted, if God wanted everything to be perfect, he would have made it perfect, right? In the sense that he would have created robots essentially without any thoughts of their own. He didn't create us that way. He didn't create us in a way to just follow blindly. He created us in a way to have our own free will, our own ideas, and our own thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. So it even speaks about this in the Bible when, Lucifer, son of the morning, God's one of the only angels that is actually named by name. The angels were in the presence of God themselves, right? And even then, they had a rebellion.
Yeah, this is according to the Bible, right?
Right, yeah. According to the Bible. So that just shows more in the fact that God created us with our own free will and essentially lets us, pay the price for what we choose to do. Mm-hmm. That's what makes humans humans. If we didn't have that choice, then essentially takes humanity out of us. And so that's why I think so much evil goes on in the world, because he gives us the choice. And along with that choice, since we did end, Adam and Eve made the wrong one, apparently, in the Garden of Eden, he at least gives us a redemption choice too. So that's what it all comes down to, choice.
That redemption choice, according to Christianity, would
right?
be
So
Jesus, right?
He didn't create us mindless. He created us with a free will to make our own choices, and that's why there's so much evil. In my opinion.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's a good response. And I'm going to ask Ayla the same question. What would your view be on that? You believing in Allah, believing that there is a God. What would you say to that?
Well, it's kind of the same view that Christian has, to be honest. We have this proverb that we always say. It's like, the teacher can't pass you or fail you unless you go through the whole course. So if God wanted you, like Christian said, if God wanted the world to be perfect, he wouldn't have created Satan. He wouldn't have created any of the evil. He created it to give us, he gave us the good and he gave us the bad. And free will only work if we have both options,
right.
So, having both intentions of good and both intentions of bad, we have to be tested in order to earn our spot in heaven or in hell, where I hope nobody goes.
Right.
But, so essentially that's all that it comes down to. It's like, we have to have the option of evil to know, how do we know what's good if we don't know what evil is?
Exactly. Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel those are along the same lines, the opinion that I hold. A lot of people are like, well, why does God allow this? And it's not so much a matter of why does God allow this, because, according to the Bible, what we believe is God created good things. There was the fall of man because of our decisions, and we have free will. I heard somebody say we're actually the only creatures that have 100% complete free will.
That is very true.
And, it's a matter of, we have the freedom to choose life, to choose, embrace, God, and embrace nature. And that would go along the lines of unconditional love, right? Because if we were made by like all robots and, worship me, then there wouldn't be it wouldn't be unconditional. It would be, conditional, right? So, yeah, that was a good response. So, Manny, I know that your last minute guess, and I know I don't mean to put you on the spot, but, do you have any views on that? No?
Okay, so I'm gonna state out, I'm atheist.
Okay.
Most of my life.
That works out because we were we lost our.
Okay, so I'm not gonna talk down, but I was raised Catholic. It wasn't recently until for the past 6 years I've been atheist, and I've been on the verge of, debating, should I believe in religion? I'm kind of, in the between, but at the same time. But yeah, I do agree that, evil and good, it exists, but, to blame someone, hierarchy, a God, it's his fault, it's not. It's our fault. We have to choose. And like they said, if bad didn't exist, we wouldn't know what good exists. So without the bad, there isn't good, and without the good, there isn't bad. So if we lived in a neutral life, we wouldn't have any excitement. We wouldn't know what would be exciting, what would be fun, because it's right, there's no bad to contrast it. But I do agree that it's not God's fault, that if I were to look at it from a Catholic point of view, that it's not God's fault, it's more man's fault. Because we're like children in a playground. He set us down, and we're doing what we do. And whatever we do, we have to take action for it. And as he said earlier, that we're so quick to blame him before we can self-reflect and, oppose it on ourselves first. Because we don't like to put the blame on ourselves. It's human nature to blame others and avoid the situation.
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's what it boils down to. So, we're all in agreement that we make decisions, and a lot of times we have a tendency to want to shift blame and blame it on something else or somebody else, but we make our own decisions. I heard somebody say that, hell wasn't really, if you believe in hell, it wasn't really made for humanity, but it was made for spiritual dark beings. And we choose. We're here on earth, and according to the Christian doctrine, where we could choose life. We could choose, instead of complaining and saying why this and this. Well, why wouldn't you choose life? Why wouldn't you choose, well, I don't believe that. Well, have you ever gone in and, like I was telling Ayla last week, if you continue to seek, it says you'll find, you continue to knock, a door will be opened, right? Yes. And a lot of people, I see that a lot of people that have questions and want to debate, they got to ask themselves, am I really seeking to understand these things? Am I looking in the Quran, the Bible, whatever, for answers, or am I just, what's the true intention in your heart? Me and Ayla were talking yesterday, and I was telling her that I think it boils down to a lot of people are just angry with God, because a lot of people have had bad experiences in religion, and I completely understand that, you know. I've been through that as a Christian, you know. I think in the end it's about, you know, according to our religion, it's about a personal relationship with God. And that's the amazing thing, that, you know, if this is the true God of the universe, that you could have a personal relationship with him. It's not a matter of what you do or what I could do. Say, hey, you know what? God loves me unconditionally, and this is what he did for me, and I could have that relationship with him. So that's what we believe in, according to Christianity. But those are some good answers, guys. I'll ask Christian this one, because he was interested in this question, and I asked this one last week. How do you feel about the state of humanity? Would you say that as a Christian that you have a heart for humanity? I know that, you're a younger guy, you know, you're a minister at your church, and, you know, in Christianity we're taught that it's about putting others first and developing a heart for humanity. So how do you feel about that? Do you have would you say that you have a sincere love for humanity? And if so, explain.
Yeah, let me start with a little backstory to it first, just so you can kind of get a better understanding of where I'm coming from. Because
that's what we're here for.
You see, it's really strange. It's so surreal to me, you know, how my life changed once I truly gave my heart to God.
Yeah.
Because before that, I noticed I was very cold, very harsh towards people in general. I wanted nothing to do with people.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be my own person, do my own thing, and not really have any feelings or affections towards other people, because I view other people, you know, as they're only going to bring me down. So I'm just going to go and rise up by myself. But, you know, Christianity doesn't teach that. Christianity teaches that, you know, you're supposed to go into all the world, you know, and spread the love of the gospel, spread the word, right? And so if you would have told me to do that before I was really transformed, I would have been like, no, I can't do that. You know, I like doing my own thing, being my own person, not dealing with anybody else.
Right.
But I noticed once I gave my heart to Christ, it was such a big change that started from the inside and kind of worked its way out. Because now, like, I walk down the street and I see, you know, situations with different people, and I look at people differently, like with a sense of compassion for them. Even though they're people I've never met before or someone I'm meeting for the first time, it's like I have a genuine love for that person as a fellow human being, you know, in the sense to where I just don't want to see them go through any hurt or any harm, and I just want to be the best person I can be to them, because I don't know what they're going through. I don't know their story. I don't know what's happening to them in that moment. So, you know, like, that just makes me want to express just genuine human kindness and love to them, so that way maybe God can use me as an instrument to just profess love to that person. Like I said, you never know a person's situation. You could see somebody walking down the street with the biggest smile on their face, and you don't know that inside they're dealing with a broken heart, or they're on the verge of hopelessness, you know? But they can mask that. So if I would have went into the world and addressed people with that just standoff mentality, you know, I could affect them in a very serious way. So it was once I gave my heart to the Lord that I really started developing that sense of endearment towards people, to where I just want to be the nicest person I can be, the most loving person I can be, even though I don't know these people. It's really a sense of responsibility. I feel like it's something I have to do, and something I want to do, you know? So that's how it changed for me. And it all started, like I said, once I gave my heart to the Lord, and that's where I see genuine change in my life.
Right. Yeah, well, that's good. You know, that reminds me, yesterday I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was real touching to see a younger man. He was about 21, and he was in New York. He was on a subway in New York, and he was preaching the gospel, the Christian gospel, you know, about Jesus. And you could see this kid's passion. You know, he had a genuine passion for what he was saying, and you got a sense, at least I got a sense of the love and the care he had. And these were older people he was preaching to. Some of them were just walking by him and laughing, but he stood his ground, and he was just walking around with his Bible in his hand. He's saying, you know, he gave his testimony, obviously, you know, where he came from. He was a kid who was kicked out of his house like at 12 years old, and he had a hard life and drugs and all that stuff. He was living on the streets for like, I believe 10 years or something to that effect. But yeah, he was talking about how Christ changed his life. And then he went on to talk about the differences between Buddha and different people that have claimed it, you know, Joseph, whatever. And the difference between them and Christ, and how Christ has changed his life. And it was just to see the passion, and you could feel it, you know, the passion that he had for the people. And it was amazing, and that's kind of what it's about, you know. And I get convicted sometimes, because in my life I get, you know, we get busy sometimes, or, you know, when I may offend somebody, or I may, you know, say, hey, did I accidentally say something wrong to that person, or did I hurt him? And you never want to do that as a Christian. So I think that's the struggle in, you know, growing in your Christianity too, is you always want it says, you know, don't make no occasions to lead people away from the gospel, you know. So that's kind of like that's something personal. And so, yeah, that's a good story. So anyhow, this is a question last week that, well, you had a view on that too, because it's a little different with Islam, right?
A view on humanity?
Yeah. There was a different view that you had on that, right? Or is it a little slightly different?
It is the same. I mean, essentially I think all monotheistic religions, we all preach love and peace, and we all have our, we're never taught to do harm to anybody. We're supposed to minimize the pain and maximize the happiness, even if that means I have to live a certain life, you know, to try to affect you in a good way, then it's my responsibility to do so, right. You know. But for Islam, honestly, last time I remember I told you the little story about what... Yeah.
It was a really little story.
It was a long story. It was
a good story though.
Yeah. It basically, in most of our stories, like, and it's not even actually stories, it's actual historical events. Yeah. You know, there's always the main message in the end is that you can never give up on anybody. You can't. Even if it means that, not even you, like maybe your offspring, or maybe your children, or maybe the people of like the city or anything. Like you you never can generalize. You know, if someone did you harm, you have to always understand that there's good in people, and always only see the good in people. We actually have I guess in English we would say a saying. It would be, give 76 excuses before you can actually put on a fault for anybody, you know? Right, so before, if I see you like stealing, you know, I'm not going to be like, oh, he's stealing. I'll be like, oh, maybe he's borrowing it. Maybe he's putting it, maybe I have to give you 100 excuses. Right. Before even giving you a fault, because I can't assume the worst of you. It's like you never did anything to me, and even if once you do like a bad thing to me, I'm still supposed to forgive you. I'm still supposed to, because we're humans. We're all made of flesh and blood. We all have mistakes, and we all have to forgive each other. And what is humanity without the love between each other? We don't have to know each other to love and respect one another. You know what I mean? And the more we get to know each other, the more that love and bond should grow between us. It doesn't matter what religion we are. It doesn't matter what race, what status, what class. That should never affect how we treat each other. Right. You know? So for humanity in general, I believe that there shouldn't be an animosity. It's just, can't we all just be friends?
Yeah, can't we all just get along, as a famous man once said? Before he went on to get arrested like 14 times.
Are we gonna walk out of this as hippies? You know, just spread the love, man.
Spread the love. Put up the peace sign.
Peace.
No, yeah, that's you know, and it's interesting. That's one thing that I mean, that little proverb that you gave. That's great, and that's something that we as Christians are taught to do. You know, and like you said, nobody's perfect. You don't always see the perfection of man, but it's a beautiful thing. There's a verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 10, and it's similar to that, but it gives a deep understanding of it, and it's Paul writing to the Corinthians saying, if I give everything I own to the poor, and even go to the stake and be burned as a martyr. This is and by the way, this is like a easier version to understand, so it's not the New King James, or this is like a thought for thought translation. So, and it says, if I give everything I own to the poor and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't have love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, and what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut or it's not boastful. It doesn't have a swelled head. It doesn't force itself on others. It isn't always me first. It doesn't fly off the handle, or it's not easily angered. It doesn't keep score of the sins of others. It doesn't revile when others grovel. It takes pleasures in the flowering of truth. It puts up with everything. It trusts God always. It always looks for the best, right? It never looks back, but it keeps going to the end. And then it goes on to say that, you know, love never dies, and there's a lot of spiritual gifts that are promised, you know, in Christianity, but all those mean nothing without love. You know, you could have gifts of, you know, we have people gifts of healing, gifts of prophecy, gifts of teaching,
Yes.
special knowledge. But, it goes on to say that if you have all these and you don't have love, it profits you nothing.
Exactly.
So I remember this verse specifically speaking to me, and I'm like, man, I see people that are so talented, whatever, but you never know. I mean, God's gifts, he's not an Indian giver, so his gifts could go forward, and you could have those gifts, but at the same time not have actual true love. You know what I mean? So that's what it's about to me. The main thing is love and compassion. So
Yeah, that's really what it all boils down to. I mean, we're basically called to live in proof of, the love of God,
Right.
And that's why I think it's so interesting what Ava was saying, that you give somebody so many excuses before you find a fault. I love that. That's really cool, because we're taught in the same sense as Christians to not be so cynical, cynical being assuming the worst in people, and I feel like it's human nature to kind of look at somebody and immediately think maybe 4 negatives about them before you even start to think of a positive about them.
Exactly.
So it's almost like when you say you got to think of this many excuses before a fault, it's almost like you're training yourself to view humanity, as overall good rather than bad. That's, because that's something I applied in my life, actually. It's something I try to do. I would it's kind of like training, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like that part of the scripture where it says it always looks for the best, correlating with when Jesus was telling him, when they asked, well, I think it was John who asked, well, how many times, or it was Peter, right, who asked, well, how many times do I forgive my brother who's wronged me? 7 times? And then Jesus he responded, no, 70 times 7. In other words, you always forgive your brother. You know what I mean? No matter what,
Yes.
And I think people, in general, especially in Christianity, you're trying to get closer to God, whatever. You're challenged with that constantly. You have to forgive, and when people are, it says that's the principle of turn the other cheek, right? When people talk about you, or when they say things behind your back, or things that are not true, and try to sabotage your name, and it may even happen in church. You know what I mean? But you're called to establish, get that heart of God, and that's one way that you grow in your faith. But that's one thing that I like about the Muslim faith is you talk about the poor, about helping out the poor, and that's one of the principles of Christianity. Jesus came, he said, I came to help those that know that they're sick, not those that don't need a doctor.
We're actually all perceived as poor. Sorry to interrupt you. We're all perceived as poor.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's until you know what fortunate people have that that if you're less fortunate or not. So for everybody's perspective, it's like you only have what you have. Right. You'll always want more, and that's what poverty is. It doesn't matter like what you have now compared to what another person might have. It's just that the fact that you will always want more puts you at the poverty that you're never satisfied in life.
Right.
Right. So being with the poor, honestly, especially in Ramadan. I mean, was it you that asked me about Ramadan the other day?
I'm not sure. If I did, I don't remember.
Oh.
You want to explain?
Possibly.
No, maybe I don't know.
It is possible.
I had like a deja vu, sorry.
Ramadan, what is that?
Ramadan.
Oh, you said it with an accent, so I didn't understand what you were
Ramadan.
saying. I was like,
it's in Arabic. It's like the same thing. But it's you basically starve yourself from sunset to sun.
Oh, it's like fasting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Fasting.
All right.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is.
I'm a
Fasting.
little confused, that's all.
And we do it once a year because we can't think that we're better than anybody. It's like the starvation of your soul, not just your stomach or anything like that, because less fortunate, it's everyone's less fortunate.
Right.
So,
and it's
we
like
address poverty.
Exactly. It's like some people they have everything. I mean, we hear about so many people that are wealthy that are miserable.
Exactly.
And they're always trying to gain, and
they're just not content.
They don't have it. We say, hey, if I just had enough, I'll be happy. And it's a testimony from so many of these people who commit suicide, and it's because they're lost. And especially being in that position, you have all these people trying to take from you, and you don't know who your true friends are, and you don't have true happiness. So that's true. I'm sorry, Manny. I don't know if you have a viewpoint on that, but I want to ask what's your viewpoint on that?
I agree with you. I think people view life too objectively. Yeah. They don't live in the present. They live in the future and in the past.
Right.
And a lot of people don't learn to forgive and forget. And that's what I've encountered a lot in my life, is that, some people hold grudges, and, we're all accountable for holding certain grudges, certain things we can't forgive, but we still forgive it anyways. But it's just, people need need to learn to take things with a grain of salt.
Right.
And that's how a society, how we're viewing it now, is we're not learning to forgive anymore. We're learning to hold things to people. We're learning to blackmail people. We're learning to backstab, betray people we have close to.
Corporate greed, yeah.
And it's really sad to see that, we as humanity view life objectively instead of, living it, loving loving your close family, your blood, your friends, the people you hold dear. Right. And it really does suck to see that, planet Earth, we're not taking care of it. We're seeing it as a business. And life isn't business. Right, life is life. We're here, you're given life. You either do something good about it or you don't do nothing about it. You have two choices. And from there you can split on it. It just goes on to endless possibilities. And it just really sucks that, we don't take hold of life and be like, hey, you're my life. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna succeed. I'm gonna get to the top and I'm gonna do what I hold dear to me. Right. And that's my views on it. I mean, granted, I don't, most of my views are influenced by Catholicism, even though, I'm atheist.
I get a sense of that.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a house where everyone's, Catholic.
Yeah.
But I'm the only atheist. So, I mean, granted, I'm not only influenced by that, I'm influenced by other, religions. I'm open to anything. I'm not going to put down anything. Right, I'm not going to put down any religion. If you believe in that, I would love to hear your point of view and I would love to hear more about it. Mm-hmm. Because, everyone has different views and they might say something that I don't have my eyes open to. Because, we always have those shutters. We always block off certain things. You can say you don't, but you do. Everyone does. Yeah. And that's just human nature, we're selective hearing. But, I mean, I'm open to anything. I agree with all your guys' point of views, even though I'm atheist. I'm not going to put your guys' view down.
Really?
I agree with it.
You don't sound like an atheist. I'm joking. Really.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
I think it's because the message that we profess is pretty universal.
It is.
It's not exclusively to Christians. Like, just because you're not a Christian, you're not a Muslim, doesn't mean you don't understand, what the message being about is. You know? Our, how would I say it? I'm trying to word it properly. Our views are pretty universal.
Yeah.
They're morals.
There you go. Morals. That'd be a better
ethics on living.
Just because you're not a Christian, I don't have morals. 'Cause I'm not a Christian, whatever. Like, no, you have morals.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't accept certain aspects, but the morals are pretty universal.
Yeah. I do agree with that. A lot of people, as they grow up, they start losing their morals. Just because, the world treated me bad,
They get jaded.
Yeah.
Jaded by life,
And they don't appreciate it, that if you didn't have the bad, like I said earlier, you wouldn't know what was good.
Exactly.
Right. There has to be, in order for the bad to exist, the good has to exist.
You have to start from somewhere. Like, you only go up.
Yeah, you only go up. And coming from experience, I lost my house. I was a young age to foreclosure, bankruptcy. And, I mean, now we have our own house now. We're living good. We have 3 brand new cars. And it's like, you don't learn to appreciate life unless you go through something bad.
Exactly.
Or else you just live a sheltered life.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's not even unless, it's like until, because, it will always come, it's not a question of if, it's just when, everybody will go through it. It's just how you can overcome it, if you choose to overcome it, or let it hinder you for the rest of your life. And a lot of people, I don't know if you guys have ever met someone who genuinely has not let things go, or just has unforgiveness in their heart. Yeah, I know, it's happened to me on 2 occasions where really close relationships I have with these people, they just didn't let their unforgiveness go. They couldn't let things go, and so it hindered them, and it still does till this day. So it's something that they're not going to be able to move on or grow until they let that go.
Right.
And it's one thing I find really sad to see is families broken apart because they can't forgive someone for doing something. Families becoming distant, and also the children paying for it. I'm saying this from experience because my mother, she had issues with my aunts and stuff, and some relatives that are close to me. And that's not gonna hinder me. When a baby's born, they're born clean slate. It's not their fault.
Right.
It's a parent's fault, but not their fault. You should never taint a newborn because of what the parents did,
Exactly. Yep.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of people get frustrated with that, like, oh, you did something bad, so therefore the baby's bad too,
Oh, that's terrible.
And that's really sad to see. And that happened to my family that, we had a little conflict, but, we still got along with the child because, it's not their fault. They're new. They don't know what's happening.
With my family, I've seen.
Yeah, it's like you can have conflict with the adults, but keep that within the adults. When the child comes over, that nothing ever happened.
Right.
And sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
Think about it this way. This is how we always say it. Like my mom, whenever I have I never really have big problems. I think I'm pretty chill about everything. But once I get to a point and it really hurts me or something, I'd go talk to my mom about it. And the only thing that she says, She was like, well, you have to forgive them. And I'm like, but Mom, like, but do you know what they did? You know, she was like, but you have to forgive them. She's like, if God Almighty, the owner of everything, the king of everything, is able to forgive the sins that we do constantly, daily, every single day, how can we not accept that trait?
Right.
How could we not be a part of that, you know? She was like, you have to learn how to forgive, because then how are you expected to be forgiven by God?
Right.
You know? Right. So, and then I'm like, oh, you know, that's pretty deep, Ma. Okay. I'll think about it.
Keeping it real.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what it's about, you know, forgiveness. And, you know, it talks about the Bible too, about make sure that there's no root of bitterness that grows, because that's a big thing, you know. And our pastor, I went to church yesterday, and the pastor was up there, and he was speaking to, like, hey, you know, in ministry, I know I've hurt people rather intentionally or unintentionally. And he's all, but the blessing is that I see some of these brothers and sisters, and they're able to forgive me for my shortcomings. And so when I see that, it's just something that's very overwhelming, because you know, as being a minister, there's many occasions to accidentally offend somebody, or even, you know, purposely, you know, and they probably get it a lot, you know. So his thing was like, you know, but it's when you see somebody with the forgiving heart, you know, and somebody who's always constantly forgiving, that's such a like encouragement. That's what we need to do, you know. That's what we need to be, is forgiving people, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think we're all, like I said, we're all human beings. We're all on those same lines, and we find ourselves in those same situations. But another interesting thing I heard, I wish we had more time, because we were talking about, I heard him say the word influence.
Yeah.
That's something that I want to talk about, but I want to get into like at least another song or two. So let's, when we come back, we're going to be talking about influence and possibly discrimination. So,
the big ones.
Yeah. So we're going to get into a quick music block, and we'll be right back. And this is Lecrae. The song's called I Know.
I know. Boy, I lost it, I'm foolish. Running off at the tulips. Probably wooing all the cruelest, persecutors, the foes. Catch me hanging with shooters, rumored destroying medulla. My mama told me they were screws, but I already knew it. Who gon' give them peace of mind? They can have peace of mind. No, they thinking I'm blind, but I just pay them no mind. Yeah, I know they be lying. They misquoting my lines. Hey, like, what you think you doing? Putting hope in your rhymes. You would think I'm shooting vocal, putting coke in my rhymes. I just give them bass for free and push the dope with the lines. Boy, you tripping, I know. Pray you slipping, I know. I done heard this all before, just sit back and enjoy the show. Yeah, I know they gon' hate us. Type they blogs up, debate us. They be fishing for attention, but don't know how to bait us. Keep that hate on hiatus. Big ups to my creator. No big thing, just a banger. So tell that DJ to bang it. Yeah, I know. 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 I know what they saying, but I promise that I'm cool though. I know what they saying, but I promise that I'm cool though. I know what they saying, I ain't tripping on it, man. I just came to do my thing, something different for sure. Listen, IK, they tryna find out my MO. I tell them guys sent me, they probably ain't get the memo. I know, I can't say that cause Jesus walks, they don't play that. I know, shouldn't be here cause people rolling their trees here. I know, you can't help them, no strippers and killers welcome. I know, you can't hear it, no ignorance in my lyrics, boy, they swear I went loco. 116 still my logo. Catch us rolling in that photo, gonna snap you a photo. Maybe Andy or Proto, might see tripping DeSoto. Maybe KB, maybe T-Dot, yeah, I know you don't know though. Yeah, I know they don't like me, cause I be on my Spike Lee. Even when I do the right thing, they still wanna fight me. I got rest, won't they taxes? Police stop us in traffic. Plus my girl be on my back, she say my life is too hectic. Pray they watching, I know. Hey, they talking, I know. I done seen this all before, man, it's just part of the show. Let's go. I know. 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 I know what they saying, but I promise that I'm cool. I know what they saying, but I promise that I'm cool. I know what they saying, I ain't tripping on it, man. I just came to do my thing, something different for sure. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. I know. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Check it. Look at me, I'm all the way turned up. I ain't smoking, but my homie in here burnt up. Yeah, I'm working on him, but he straight though. Couple girls tryna twerk it on me, wait, no. Hold up. Before you even roll up, I'm in here with my lady, can't you see me, man, I'm sold up. Man, I'm in here tryna celebrate a birthday. And you know I'm good and well, it's a work day. No matter, we still gon' kick it, and we ain't getting trippy. No Molly in Mississippi, ain't fighting nobody, ain't nobody said tripping. And Southeast Dago in the building, shout out to Peter Pan, Skyline Imperial, we out here tryna function. Holla if you with it though, probably think I'm rolling, I'm just high on the spirit, bro. The only thing we poppin' is the truth, you don't hear me though. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. But what I got you need to know about is on me, I'm turned, 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 I'm turned. Everybody slow motion, leaning off the potion. I tell them I'm straight, trying to keep my mind focused. Came 40 deep, clicked up, crew love. Got them looking at us crazy cause we so turned up. Yeah, homie, I'm turned, I'm turned, I'm turned, I'm turned. I ain't popping, rolling, and I ain't burnt. So tell Mary and Molly, I don't need them to party. Someone woke up in the lobby trying to locate their wallet while I'm 9 holes in trying to work on my hobby. And I wish somebody would get me started. Hey, deuces up to Nipsey, K-Dot and Gang. I'm out here in the West, don't holla at me, man. My bloodstream clean, nothing running through my veins. It's 116, yeah, I'm still unashamed. I call it net worth, keep them out here fishing. You know I'm with the clicking, man, we out here trying to kick it. You know that we... Now I'ma tell you what I'm telling, I'ma tell it everywhere I go.
What's up, everybody? We're back. This is Be The Message on 1630 AM, Shafee College Radio. And I'm your host, Lou the Messenger. We're back with our guests, Manny. Okay. We're back with our guests, Manny, Christian, and Ayla. And they were asking you a question, Manny, regarding your belief. You guys were talking about that. So do you want to expound on what the question was and your response to it?
My question is basically was mine and Ava's. Both of us were just kind of asking. Mm-hmm. You said that you were Catholic at one point and you did genuinely believe that there was a God, right? Mm-hmm. And Ava, you were asking if he went from agnostic to just pure atheist. Yeah. How would that come about? What were you asking?
Would you like to repeat that question?
No, it's cool. I just wanted to know, like, cause you were Catholic, you said you were raised Catholic. And then so I was just wondering, did you just go full on atheist or did you, go agnostic atheist, fade into it?
It was more like full on. The reasoning behind it was, cause I was raised, and it wasn't a choice to be, what religion I wanted to be: Christian, agnostic, I wanted to be, or Catholic, or Seventh-day Adventist, etc. Mm-hmm. It was more of, my parents were like, hey, we're going to church, this, that. And it wasn't when I got to a bit older that, I started realizing, free choice, because in my house it wasn't really free choice. Mexican parents, you grow up, you better do it this way. They're gonna give you the hand,
some chanclas,
or the wooden spoon,
all up on the backside.
And I was raised that way, so it wasn't until my parents started loosening up a bit, and I started getting a bit more of the world view, how I perceive things. And it wasn't until then until I made my decision that I was gonna be atheist. I was viewing it, I was like, okay, if this is what I believe in, it was more forced upon in my family. And so I started, like I said, started abusing it, started doing research, started believing in what I wanted to believe. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because I was like, this is rubbish. It was more of, hey, I don't really think this pertains to me. I don't really because a lot of people look for religion for hope, right? Mm-hmm. You put your hopes into it, it gets you to the day. And it didn't quite work for me that way. It didn't work for me in the sense, that I could go there and, relieve myself. Mm-hmm. I felt more of a burden. Mm-hmm. Being in religion, and once I got out of, once I, didn't practice the faith anymore, I felt more relieved. I felt like I was living life a bit more, not carelessly, but, with ease, cruising down life, taking the opportunities I can, within my moral junction, because, you can't be doing things, there's certain things where society views more, immoral, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I transitioned quickly, was because I was like, hey, this isn't for me. I'm not going to stay in something because my parents want me to stay in it. and that's something that my parents. It was something my parents took a bit hard.
Yeah.
You know,
I
because
bet, yeah.
my grandma being, you know, very religious, you know, she has her Bible, her little crosses all over the house and stuff. You know, they just said, how could you denounce something so, you know, so with so much power, you know, how could you like say something like that? And, you know, they were all against it because, you know, again, we were raised Catholic, and we used to go to church a lot, but they just got really upset that, you know, they thought someone was influencing me.
Right.
They thought it wasn't my own decision. And that's what kind of upset me more. And I told them, you know, hey, you know, I was raised by you guys. The religion was forced upon, regardless if it wasn't, you know, if it was indirectly or directly, you know, it was a practice you guys had in the family, so you guys just did it, carried on to the children. And I was like, it wasn't until, you know, I started reading more, I started, you know, looking into and, you know, made my own decision that, you know, I don't want to believe in it. It wasn't until then that I consciously made a decision of, you know, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not me. And it took them, it was something for them, it was hard for them to swallow. It was something really hard for them to swallow. And they're finally over it. You know, we don't talk about religion in our house. We don't even talk about politics because we all have different views. So it's something we don't talk about. We just respect each other. I respect the religion. If they go to church as a family, I'll go with them. I like hearing it. I like hearing what people have to say, that the people are nice, the community is great.
Yeah.
But it was just a choice that I made like in an instant.
So my question to that would be, you said you were raised Catholic, but it was more forced upon you. So my question is, at any point did you ever genuinely in your own self like have an acknowledgement for God in that you wanted to serve him? Did you ever truly in your own perspective think that there was a God? Because I notice a lot of people are, you know, like, I was actually raised Catholic too.
Yeah.
I made my first communion as a Catholic. I was Catholic for pretty much half of my life. And I ask a lot of people out there too, like, you know, oh, well, what do you believe? And they say, oh, my parents are Catholic, so that makes me Catholic too. And I'm always kind of quick to say, like, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Just because your parents kind of drag you to church, if you're not acknowledging what they're saying as truth, that doesn't make you Catholic, or that doesn't make you Christian. Like, I know people who claim to be Christian, but that's just because their parents have that belief. Doesn't mean that they are. You know, it's something that you have to make an acknowledgement for yourself. So at any point, being raised Catholic, did you have that genuine belief?
I did.
You did have?
I did. Yeah, okay. I completed my first communion. I did everything, you know.
On your own accord?
Yeah, that was on my own.
In your heart, you felt like?
Yeah. Okay, but it was just like, you know, since I was raised, you know, I had the mentality like, oh, I gotta be Catholic.
Right, that's all you knew. So
yeah, that's all I knew.
That's what you did.
And I at some point I did believe in it strongly. I used to carry a cross with me wherever I went. I carried a pocket Bible in my backpack. But, you know, like I said, when I grew older, and, you know, I'm not saying it's bad, you know, people can believe with it, but I just felt that it just felt like a burden to me.
Right.
Cool. Okay, guys, sorry to interrupt. This is a very interesting conversation, but we're going to have to wrap it up right there because we're running out of time. But maybe we can continue this discussion next week. Yeah. Everybody, I just once again I want to thank my guests, and for anybody that's listening, I want to thank the listeners. I want to thank my guest, Christian. Thank you for coming, Christian.
No
Ayla,
problem.
It's always a joy to have you.
It's not joyful to have me, or what?
It's a joy to have all you guys here. Yeah.
Don't be jealous.
Oh, she just got a little bit of a better outro than I did. Wait a minute here.
It's Ayla, you know?
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, and Manny, it was really good having you here, man. You had some really interesting input, and we appreciate you being here. And like I said, I want to thank all of you for listening. This is 1630. This is 1630 AM, Chaffey College Radio, and this is Be the Message. Thanks a lot, guys.